There you go. Cheers, I do buckaroos. I'm having some technical difficulties, so bear with me. My tablet's being glitchy as hell tonight. I'm not sure what the issue is. Anyway, I have to restart it, I guess. Anyway, anyway, I digress. I am Tom the Whiskey Whisperer, and Merry Christmas to you as I try to get things organized here real fast. Then you will have my undivided attention. So I picked this one up, well, a few months ago, about 3 months back, actually, at Gomer's. Maybe it was 2 months. Anyway, at Gomer's liquor store in Kansas City. I know it sounds funny, but they had some really good stuff in there. Anyway, let me try to get my privacy issues fixed here. Oh, wait, it won't work. It's acting really weird tonight for some reason. There we go. Let's see if that'll do it. And now we're back in business. Anyways, yeah, so I picked up this particular product a I can't remember, it's about 3 months, 2 months. Anyway, a little bit ago. I hadn't seen it before. No, actually, that's not true. Actually, I didn't get this one at Gomer's. I got this one at Lucas Liquor, so it was back in August. So it has been a little while. I forgot I couldn't find this product at Gomer's. I got it at Lucas when we were in the Kansas City area a month before. Because I wanted to buy a second bottle. I hadn't opened it yet, so I wanted to buy a second bottle, but they didn't have one. Anyways, so I have been hanging on to this bottle for a little while. I have no idea what it tastes like. I will tell you, though, I am a big fan of the American single malt whiskey, and I'm not sure why others aren't. I haven't, to be honest with you, I've had a few people tell me they don't like them, but nobody's been able to give me a straight answer of why they don't, other than they just don't. And I think a lot of it is comparisons, right? You want to compare to Scotch single malt, Irish single malt, or even Japanese single malt for that matter. And American single malts are a whole other animal. So the only reason I can think of for folks that don't like them, I think a lot of it is just snobbery. It's just plain old snobbery. Anyway, American single malt whiskey. This one is at 92 proof because I think a lot of folks think it's cool to say, "Well, I don't like that product." you know, it's that it's that middle school table mentality that a lot of whiskey drinkers have. Because when you ask them what they don't like, they're not able to give you a straight answer. Well, I just don't like it. Well, why? But I don't like it. It doesn't taste like this. Well, it's not supposed to. It's not supposed to be a Scotch single malt. It's not supposed to be a Japanese single malt or even an Irish single malt. It is an Irish single malt whiskey. What they have in common is malted barley, 100% malted barley. Everything else is distinctly American. Maybe that's why I love them. I guess because they are just different from the other single malts around the world. Scotch single malts do tend to vary, if you like a Highland, a Lowland, or an Islay, but they all seem to have certain things in common, right? Even Japanese single malts, there seems to be a certain commonality, or even Irish single malts as well. But American single malts, I don't know if they have that singular commonality. If I have the Union Horse Rivalist or the Restless Spirits Gully Town, I mean, they are distinctly different. They don't seem to, other than the fact that they are both 100% barley, they're put together quite differently. And maybe that's why I like the American single malts, because they are inherently different from everybody else's single malt whiskeys. So the Switchgrass, I haven't had this before. I haven't tasted. I haven't done anything with it. So we're going to learn about this one together. Limited release. This one's at 92 proof. Tasting notes, they say chocolate, cherries, and fresh baked bread. I mean, that's a little broad, but let's see what she's got. Chocolate, cherries, and fresh baked bread. Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, I do get the chocolate, but I'm going to put a finer point on it. I'm going to say malted dark chocolate. Cherries. Yeah, I'm going to say dark cherry notes. Fresh baked bread. Yeah, I'm going to put a finer point on it and say dark bread. Like a fresh baked pumpernickel. But there's other things going on here, just on the nose. I mean, wow, that's gorgeous. There's a certain dankness terms usually used for wheat or IPAs, but there's a certain dankness on the nose, right? And I maybe I have felt this, not so much in the Gully Town, but I have felt that in the Union Horse Rivalist as well. That dankness. I'm thinking maybe that's that note that other, so-called whiskey experts aren't getting is that dankness that other single malt whiskeys do not have. That dankness on the nose seems to be uniquely American. Wow. 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 Damn. Damn, I wish I had bought 2 bottles of that. Yeah, I bought the one. But the truth is, when we were going back through Kansas City about a month later, I wanted to pick up another bottle. We were going to the Lucas Liquors, but then we found that Gomer store, and I did find stuff of that Gomer's that Lucas didn't have. But they didn't have. They only had the Switchgrass bourbon and rye. They didn't have the single malt, and I should have bought the bourbon and rye, but I didn't. In all honesty, I wish I would have, because I am a fan of those whiskeys. But the single malt, I wanted to have 2 bottles of the single malt so I could open one right away, but they didn't. So I didn't open it right away. I waited till Christmas Day to pop this sucker open. Damn. Yeah, the truth is, I don't get it. I don't get why there are so many so-called bourbon lovers or whiskey lovers that aren't a fan of the American single malts. And the only thing I can think of is they just don't get it, right? And I think that there is a certain amount of snobbery that makes you think you shouldn't like it, and I don't buy into that. If you have the ability to take each whiskey at its own merit, I'm not sure how you can dislike this whiskey. Meaning that it's not inherently flawed. There's nothing wrong. There's no off notes. It's like drinking. So, as a beer guy, there are times, there are certain beer styles that I'm not necessarily a fan of, but I try them anyway, and I'm able to remark on them because I can tell if one is done right or not. I'm able to pick up certain flaws in that beer. So if it's not flawed, I can say there's nothing wrong with this beer. If this is a style you like, you're going to like this one. It's not necessarily for me. And I don't know why whiskey guys don't have that same ability to say, this particular style isn't for me, but there's nothing off about it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not a bad whiskey. It's just not my wheelhouse. But for some reason, most American whiskey drinkers just don't have that ability. You don't have the ability to say, "Huh, it's not for me," but it's not inherently flawed. But again, I think the other side of that is again that snobbery issue. Like Scotch single malt whiskey drinkers want to believe their stuff is the best, and to believe that you have to believe everything else isn't as good. For me, I've always preferred Irish single malt over Scotch because I think it's a far superior whiskey. But that isn't that isn't the mainstream opinion. But I've never been one to go with the mainstream. People have remarked in my playlist. I had somebody remark in my playlist the other day. He said, "Tom, when you put a playlist together, do you pick a band that everybody knows and then intentionally pick a song that nobody's going to know?" He was kind of laughing about it, but it's not inherently wrong. The truth is, though, I don't do it on purpose. But for me, I've never been a fan of mainstream on any level, whether it be music, whiskey, beer, or food. I'm just not a mainstream kind of guy. It seems, and again, I've never done it on purpose, but it seems like my favorite song on any given album is usually the second or third song on the B side. So when I put playlists together, I'm not necessarily trying to play songs that nobody knows, is I'm trying to, widen or expand their horizons, right? I'm trying to show you stuff that you may not know, that you'll probably like if you had only heard it. If your radio station only had the balls to play this certain song, you may have liked it. And I feel the same way about a lot of these whiskeys, is that I feel like more people would like these whiskeys if you just had the, the wherewithal to just just take a drink. If it was given to you blindly, you wouldn't say, okay, it's American single malt, I'm going to dislike it. If it was given to you blindly, you would say, oh damn, that's a damn fine whiskey. But I do think a lot of whiskey drinkers have become lemmings, right? They seek out certain whiskeys because certain talking heads have told them those are the whiskeys they have to have. So if those same talking heads say these whiskeys aren't good or not worth your time, the people are going to say, oh, they're going to follow that ignorance rather than taste for themselves and think for themselves. And I think that's a problem. Is a lot of American whiskey drinkers don't have the ability to think for themselves. They're being told what they like or don't like without taking a drink for themselves and deciding, hey, that's a good whiskey or it's not a good whiskey. Because quite frankly, I haven't had one so-called whiskey expert be able to tell me why they're not a fan of American single malt whiskey, other than to say they don't like them. But they've never been able to tell me why, or tell me specific off flavors or aromas that they don't like. They've never been able to articulate what is wrong with a particular whiskey, other than to say they don't like it. It's easy to say you don't like something uh, and not have the ability to explain why. Because quite frankly, if I don't like something, whether it be whiskey, food, beer, music, I'll be able to tell you exactly why, exactly what my problem is with it. So I don't understand those that don't have the ability to do so. Hey, home bartending with John, Slancha. Thanks for tuning in and listening to my little rant here as I go on. I got to say, I haven't had this one before, and the only thing I'm upset about at this particular moment in time is that I only bought one bottle. I hadn't opened it yet when we were passing through Kansas City again, and I had every intention of buying a second bottle, but the liquor store we went to didn't have it. But the liquor store we did go to had products that the other one didn't have, so it was kind of a trade-off. But as I'm trying this particular whiskey for the first time, they tell you to look for notes of chocolate, cherry, and baked bread, which is rather vague in all honesty. So I'm going to put slightly finer points on it and say yes, chocolate, but dark malted chocolate. Cherries, but yes, dark cherries. Fresh baked bread, yes, but a very dark bread, a pumpernickel, for instance, your fresh baked pumpernickel. However, having said that, there are other flavors and aromas going on. You're going to get that you're going to get vanilla going through it, as you should. You're going to get all the usual suspects, right? You're going to find the oak and the finish. It has a nice spice finish, though. I'm going to say typically cinnamon is what is usually dominant, but here I'm picking up allspice more and a hint of clove. And again, that word is going to pop out. That dankness, right? Usually described with IPAs or weed. And I think, but I have felt this with other American single malts, and I think that's why some whiskey drinkers are stumped, because they're not really sure how to describe that particular, flavor, aroma, or mouthfeel. Is that dankness, and I don't know how else to describe it either, but to use that particular word. Anyway, lunch. Man, that stuff is delicious. So I got to tell you, that's good. I poured about 2 ounces in here. I'm really impressed with that spice in the finish. It's not as sweet as you might expect early on, even though you are going to get those chocolate notes. It doesn't have that bourbon sweetness per se. But then again, you're talking about malted barley, so it should not. There is that complexity to it. I gotta tell you, I love that 100% malted barley. Maybe that's why I am a fan of the American single malts, because they're doing it just a little bit different than everybody else. One of my favorites here is, again, what I've mentioned earlier, is the Union Horse Rivalist. I think I got a bottle here. Let me show it to you. I've got one open bottle, one unopened bottle. Then I got just a little bit left in this one. But this is there are a lot of flavor and aroma differences, but what they have in common, again, is that dankness. More beer. Hey man, do you, man? I got no judgment here. But one thing I like to bring up, though, besides flavors and aromas, again, is how it feels, the viscosity, the mouthfeel. I love the way this one comes together. Again, it kind of feels, it's like that Goldilocks, right? It's just right. It's not too thin. It's not too viscous. Not too chewy. It's just, there's just enough to hold it together with that proof at 92 proof. You expect, or you should expect, a certain amount of viscosity, right? Then again, it is 92 proof. It's not 100 proof, nor is it cat, so it shouldn't be too chewy. You want it that right of you want it thin, but you don't want it overly chewy either at this particular proof. And quite frankly, I think they've got this one down. This one is, in my opinion, it's absolutely delicious. Anyways, I digress. I am Tom the Whiskey Whisperer, Whiskey Evangelist, prolific, prolific whiskey drinker, purveyor of wisdom, and all around good guy. Sláinte.